Okay, while we're quarantined, if you would like to pick up a new hobby, I'm going to show you how to knit. If you happen to have a ball of yarn and access to some knitting needles. Now, if you don't have needles at your house, that's fine. Any long, straight sticks will do. I've seen people in a pinch. If you don't have any needles, you can use chopsticks if you happen to have any of them on hand. So, let's get started. We're going to use one of these needles and we're going to put a row of stitches on it. So let's get our first stitch. Take your yarn. You need to wrap it around your finger one time. We're going to make a slip knot. Once it's wrapped around, loosen it just a little bit. Take the tail right here. Tuck it through. This is the loop. It's going to go on the needle. So you just stick it on right there. Now when you make the loop, taking a look at it, it looks a little bit like a pretzel now, doesn't it? This is the part of the pretzel that's going to go on the needle. Remember, you want to leave a little bit of a tail here. Let's try that again. Loop it around. And here we go. All right, for our next stitch, take your thumb. We'll just pinch the yarn. Make another loop. Put it on the needle. There you go. All right, let's make another one. Make a loop. Put it on the needle. Notice how the yarn goes down around the front of the needle, down behind, going down through the loop, and pull it tight. So the inside, this doesn't fall off because this is holding it in place. Take the yarn, put this on the inside, put it on the needle. So after you've done this for a while, you just get yourself a rhythm and keep on going and keep on going. But remember, you just take it, bring it around to the front, put it on right there. Now, how many of these do you need to make? Well, that all depends on how wide you want this to be. The wider you need it to be, the more loops you go on. Let's just do a few more. All right, so now that we have our base, time to start using the second needle. Now, what's holding all these loops together? The first needle. So this loop right here, it's not falling apart. You can tug on it. It's still going to stay there. But if I took it off the needle, right there, give it a tug, it's gone. So the needle is what's holding it in place. So in order to get this off the needle, we're going to make a new row of loops to hold these in place instead. It's kind of like if you've ever used rubber bands, made one of these chains with them. Take a rubber band, take the second one. This rubber band is holding this one right here. So we take this, put another rubber band through. This rubber band is holding this one, and this one is holding this one. Then you put another one through. This one's holding this one's holding this one, and so on, and so on, and so on. So every rubber band is holding on to the one right below it. And this last one, my fingers, they're holding on to that one. If I let go, look what happens. Then it all just falls apart. So they're all holding each other together. So that's what your yarn's going to do. Your needle's holding this loop right here. So now we're going to make some new loops to hold on to it instead. So we're going to stick our needle right through here. Go to the side, stick it through front to back. So you got your loop, stick it through front to back. So let me make it a little bit bigger. So here's your loop. Now both needles are inside of it. Take your yarn. We're going to loop it around. This is going to be our new stitch. So we have a new stitch right here. I'm going to take this needle, very carefully, bring it back. And while we're bringing it back, we take the stitch with us. So here's your new stitch. We're bringing it through. So here's the new stitch. Here's the old stitch. We can take it off now. And the new stitch down here is being held in place by this one. But the old stitch is being held in place by the new one. So let's do it again. Going through. Go around. Coming back through. Okay, here's the old stitch. Here's the new stitch. Off the needle, the old stitch is held in place. So back we come. There was an old rhyme when they were teaching kids how to knit. They would say, under the gate, grab the sheep, back we come, off we leap. Makes sense. So under the gate, grab the sheep, back we come, off we leap. So you're going through. So you can see here are the old stitches, here are the new stitches. Going around, back it comes. So stick your needle through, wrap it around. This will feel a little awkward at first, but the more you do this, you'll get used to it. And your stitches will all be the same size, the same distance apart, because you'll be more used to it. Okay, around, back, just a few more. Oh, there's only 3 left. 3, 2, right? Go through, wrap around, pull back, off it goes, and last one. There, all the stitches are off this needle now, because you can see down here, here's the original row of stitches, and here are the new stitches holding it in place. Now remember, the next time you do this, make sure you don't pick up the tail. You want this. You want the piece that's connected to the ball of yarn. All right, so we're just going to start all over again. Now make sure you don't have it wrapped around funny like that or anything. You have it straight down, all nice and lined up, and you're sticking it through the new one. So this stitch right here is being held by the needle, and this stitch is being held by this stitch right here. So if this stitch got off the needle and nothing was holding it, the whole thing would unravel. This one and this one. So Once again, we're going to stick it through here. We have the right piece of yarn here. We're going to make our loop. Get the tail out of the way. Do the exact same thing. Bring it through. There we go. And now this one can come off the needle because our new stitch is holding it in place. Let's do that again. Stick it through. Go around. Pull your new stitch through. Off it goes. Stick it through. Going around. Pull it back. Off it goes. Just keep on going around and around. Pull it through, new stitch, off it goes. So here are the old stitches right here. Here's the old stitch. Make the new stitch. I can pull it off the needle and see how the new stitch is holding it in place. So it's fine. Here's the old stitch. Here's the new one. Pulling the new stitch through. Off it goes. Old stitch is held in place. Keep going around and around and around. So what's going to happen when we get to the end of this row? That means all of the old stitches will be held in place by this new row of stitches that we're making. Well, then what? Okay, there's 3. There's 2. One more. Okay, it's gotten a little bit longer now. Here's our first row of stitches. Here's our next row. Here's our next row, and here's the one that we just made. And when we're done with this, we just turn around and do it again. And keep on going and keep on. Okay, done a few more rows on this. You can see making some progress right there. Now the question is, what's this going to be? A lot of people, for their first knitting project, they want to try a scarf, which does make sense. All you have to do is just keep going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. You'll have a very large rectangle, which is what a scarf is. This is a size 10.5 knitting needle, which means every row makes this about 1/4 of an inch longer. Meaning if I want a scarf that's about 60 inches long, I'll need about 240 stitches. Yeah, you use math with this. So, got a little ways to go. Here's one that I made that way, the same kind of stitch. You can see those loops over and over again. You just keep on going, keep on going, keep on going. Until you have your scarf. This does take a while. If you want to do something a little bit simpler, you can cast several rows on your needle. Make a very long rectangle, very wide, but narrow this way. Stitch it right here to get a loop. And make yourself a headband. And then you're going to have a lot of yarn left over, so you can make a scarf too. But for my first time, I wanted to make a scarf, but it wasn't looking very good because if you're going to make a mistake, you're going to make them early on. By the time it was about this big, I had holes in it. I had these little bumps here on the side. It didn't look very good, so I made it, I'd say about 10 inches long. Then I went ahead and tied it off. So I had myself a nice little rectangle, and I used it to wash the car. And hey, there's nothing wrong with that. It did a great job. So let's just do a couple more rows and I'll show you how to tie this off. Okay, let's get this finished. We're going to make our last row of stitches here. And this time, the stitches are going to also hold in place the stitch next to it. We're going to start out by making 2 stitches the way we've been doing it. Loop around, make your new stitch. Off it goes, loop around, make the new stitch, off the needle. Now, we're going to take this one off the needle. What's going to hold it in place? It's going to be the stitch beside it. So you don't want to make these too tight, you want to have room to work. So take this one with your needle. I'd hold this one snugly to the needle down here. Pull it over top. So here's your newest stitch. You pull it through. It's now being held in place so it can go off the needle. So you only have 1 stitch on here now. Let's make another one. Oops, lost it there. Stick it through. Make your loop. Pull it back. All right, we have 2 stitches. Take this one. Pull it over top. Very carefully. Don't want to lose your new stitch. Pull it over the top. Now, this stitch is being held in place by the stitch that was next to it. Now there's only 1 stitch on here again. Stick it through. Make your loop. Pull it through. You have 2 stitches. Take that one. Pull it over. Back down to 1. So you keep making your loops to get a new stitch. You take your first stitch, pull it over the second one, and it's off. So you're seeing right here a line of them. Each stitch is being held in place by the one that was beside it. So you don't want to hold these too tightly because it'll be difficult to work with. Don't want to be too loose. You want to try to find a balance somewhere there in the middle. So you can see it's half on the needles now and half off. And they're all being held in place, so you're good. Take your second stitch, pull it through your first one. There you go. Get a new stitch, pull it through, pull it over, off it goes. Just keep doing it again and again until in just a moment they'll all be off the needle. Stick it through, loop around, so you have 2 stitches, pull it over, there's only 5 left over here now, 4, 3, 2, 1. So last one, stick it through, make your loop, pull it through, pull it over, and that's it. You can snip it right here. Pull the yarn through, and you're finished.